Welcome to the Christian Life Coach Collective. I am your host, Laura Malone, and we're here to talk about life coaching, entrepreneurship, leading yourself well, and lots of spirit-led life and business strategies. So thanks for joining me on this journey, and let's jump into today's episode. So I was on the live monthly call with all of students from any of the courses, and we all get together and I just coach them and give them feedback, whatever it is that they need. And sometimes this has happened. It happened on this latest call where I clicked the Zoom link that I sent out to everybody because they get an email 2 days before the call. They get an email 2 hours before the call. And I'm sitting there for 15 minutes thinking, I wonder where everybody is. And I send out another little message, etc. And then I'm just patiently waiting. Sometimes it takes a little while for people to filter in. That's fine. And I'm doing a little other work, creating a graphic for the newest podcast episode, get on my email, and I see an email from one of my coaches that says, hey, I'm on the call, but it says another meeting is in progress on Zoom. It says you're in another meeting, so what do we do? And I realized that the meeting that I had clicked on in Zoom, which I clicked start this meeting, and the meeting that I had copied the invite from and put into the email for everybody to click on is the same one every month. All of the students in all of my courses are all invited to the same call the first Thursday of every month. We do the same thing. The link is always the same. And yet, somehow, whatever I clicked on was not like the thing that everybody else clicked on. I don't know how it happened. So what happened is I quickly jump out of the meeting I'm in by myself and jump into the meeting all my coaches are in. And here's what happens. So because it's kind of like a training call, I'm coaching them, but I'm also giving them feedback and I'm teaching. And it's not really a coaching session, so to speak, because I'm teaching in it. And I said, okay, I'm going to turn this into a learning opportunity, which is why I'm sharing it on the podcast, because I think it's a really valuable thing that happened. And I've told them, okay, here's what's happened. The tech is a problem. Sometimes tech has its own mind. You're not completely in control of what systems do, what your platform does, what your scheduler, I don't know, you thought you had it right, but then you and the scheduler were not on the same page. It hadn't had its coffee by the time you did it, whatever. Well, Zoom, it happens a lot, and I'm not going to say it's a Zoom issue. I believe, after years of business, that there's a disconnect between tech and the human brain. I believe it. I know it to be true. And the reality is you're always going to have something occur in your business that you don't have complete control over. You didn't do it on purpose. It happened. It's going to feel like it happened to you. Sometimes your clients are going to feel like you did it to them. That doesn't necessarily make it true. It just means it happened. And with tech, you have to expect things are going to happen. Here's the key. And this is what I told the coaches on that call. I said, what you do, if you're going to actually get onto a client session where something like this were to have occurred, you own it. Don't make excuses. And the reality is I was sharing with them, not excuses, but reasons. Here's what happened, because I wanted it to be a learning opportunity. I wanted to take what happened to us and happened to me and turn it into something that they could learn from, because that's kind of the point of the call anyway. And if that had been something that happened to a client who had booked one session and the whole session is supposed to be coaching them, not me teaching, not me taking what happened to us and turning it into a learning opportunity, then I would have handled it very differently. And this is what I told them. If this happens, if tech does something to create a problem or a challenge for you and your client, you own it. You don't have to say, I did that, it's totally my fault. but you can still own it. You can say, I apologize for the inconvenience of that. I did not mean that to happen. I tried my best. I believed I was doing the right thing. However, we still ended up getting on the session 15 minutes late. I would love to extend our session past the time that's scheduled, another 15 minutes. You know what? Let me make it another 20 minutes. And do you have time for our session to be extended 20 minutes past the scheduled time? Or do you have something that you have to get to in this time frame? Would you like to reschedule? So you can actually just own it. Don't dwell on it, but just close the loop in your own mind about how you feel about it and offer a solution. Let your client know that you will still give them the allotted time if you can. If you have another client scheduled at that time, then you're going to have a little bit of a bump. You have to quickly decide what you're going to do. Will you reschedule this client and give them an hour and 15 minutes? Will you give them a little extension because of the inconvenience? Do you need to push your next client back? What is it you have to do? You're going to have to make a little concession for that and figure it out quickly. Knowing what is the best case scenario ahead of time is better for you. That way, when you get with this client that you're late to getting on the call with, you can immediately go straight into coaching because the client is not there to talk to you about what happened. They're not interested in why Zoom didn't work. They are there to be coached about the thing they paid you to coach them on. So you need to be able to manage your mind and not dwell in the shame or the condemnation that inner voice might want to tell you, not judge yourself, not get really mad at Zoom or whatever the software platform is you're working on that you blame. That is not what you're here for. If something like this happens to you, you need to close that up in your mind, resolve it, put it aside, and say, I'm going to deal with that on my own time, but right now is paid client time. We're not here to talk about me and how I feel about what just happened. We're here to talk about the client's focus and coaching that aspect of what you've agreed to bring to the session. So own it. Decide what the best case scenario is for both you and the client. Determine if you need to make changes for clients that follow them. And do a little bit of self-coaching and help yourself compartmentalize and say, I don't know what happened, but now is not the time to figure it out. Now I need to give all my focus, turn my brain power, all of my mental energy, all my emotional energy needs to go into actually showing up for this client and not show up for myself. I don't need me to show up right now. I can show up for me in an hour and a half when I'm done with clients. I can do this tonight or tomorrow, but right now is not the appropriate time. I'm saying this because I can't tell you how many times over the years something has happened with a client where there's been a disruption I had no control over. I don't need to make excuses for it. You can hear the cannoli in the background. He's making a lot of he's talking to you. He wants to be on this episode. But there's things that are just going to happen as a business owner, as somebody who is not in complete control of the world, as a human being. It's not always going to go off without a hitch. Not everything you do and put your hand to is going to be perfect. And all I can say is, just like right now, the sound quality on this episode may not be perfect because there is a cat that is just randomly, he just has so much to say right now in this very moment. I can get stressed out about it. I can go back through here and edit it. I can, I don't know, put him outside the window. But he's only got 3 legs, and so he's not going to survive very long, so I might as well keep him inside. And he likes to push up against the wall and make big noises. What has to happen is if I can own that, I will just get more quickly into the realm of done is better than perfect. Move forward, take action, imperfect action, and get something done, as opposed to I can't do anything because everything is not perfect yet. I can't do this yet because what if this happens? You cannot live your life expecting certainty about everything. You must just go forward. It is life. You can look at children and see the freedom they have to just go forward and not wait till all of the ducks are in a row. So I want to encourage you to think about the things that you get stuck on. Where do you get stuck, and where do you think, let me say it this way, where have you decided to be the police in the background? That inner critic, that policeman voice that's in your head telling you, don't you dare try unless you completely know with 100% certainty that you'll pull it off perfectly the first time through. Don't you dare show up as who you are until you're better. He agrees with me. Now he's actually on my desk next to the microphone, and he's got so much to say. I think he's right. He said, believe in yourself. Believe in your capacity. You're 100% worthy, 100% capable right now. Start where you're at. It's okay. You have permission. The police are not real. They're not actually out there waiting for you to be perfect and certain and never make a mistake. And you know what? Your clients aren't either. Clients aren't looking for perfection. Clients are looking for you to be real. People like to be mirrored. And if they can see that you are in progress, it helps them see they have permission to be in process. If they see you in process, they have permission to be in process. I'm not going to edit that out. I said the wrong word, but I'm not going to edit it because that's the thing. We're in process. You have permission to be in process. But when something happens, own it. Don't dwell on it. Put it aside. Take care of it later. Solve it, fix it later on your own time. And don't let your clients suffer for it. Make up for it however you feel that you need to best make up for it. That doesn't mean you have to give a free session to somebody because you showed up 3 minutes late to the session. You can just extend it. You say, I just like to offer you 10 more minutes of coaching. If that is even the case, you might not even have to do that. Clients are late to sessions all the time. You shouldn't be late as a coach. And I expect my clients to be on time. A couple of minutes, not an issue. But 10, 15 minutes, if they're just late, then I have other things that I need to get to. I'm not going to sit on my Zoom call and not hear from them and just sit there and wait for a 50-minute session by myself, waiting to see if they jump on. My clients know if they don't get on or if they're going to get on late, they need to communicate with me. That's an expectation that they agree to when they sign a contract, that they're going to show up for themselves. And that is part of doing the work. That's part of being coachable. You, as part of your client coach relationship and the contract that you've agreed to, your job is to be there with your head on straight for the client. Get your own coach to be there for you. Deal with your own stuff later. Learn how to just turn your mind from what feels, a little self-conscious, what you feel self-conscious about, what you feel embarrassed about, what you're worried about. There's something to be said for leaving it at the door. I used to have a job 25 years ago where my boss at a restaurant that I worked at said, when you get here, you are a waitress or server or whatever, and the guests are your main priority. All the other stuff, you leave it at the door. When you walk through the doors of the restaurant, you leave the rest of your life behind, and you're now responsible for something else. Your job is something else. Tending to yourself is what happens before you come in the door and after you walk out the door. It's the same thing when you're coaching. This is your job. And the business that you have personally and the business you have with your business, that is before the coaching call and after the coaching call. It's not during the client time. And if you struggle with that, I recommend writing down on a piece of paper, if this stuff keeps popping up for you, while you're on a client session and you're still feeling like some judgment, some shame, some embarrassment, self-consciousness, whatever, write down on pieces of paper and just write down, make yourself a little note while you're on the client session, because you want to be able to get your mind present and focused on the client, right? But I always have notes that I'm making while I'm on a client session. So what you can do is just on that piece of paper or on a little Post-it note, a notepad on the side, just write down 1 or 2 words that describe what you're feeling. Get it out of your head, put it on this paper. I'm to blame. I'm embarrassed. You can shorthand it. You don't have, just write it without even looking at it. Keep staring at the client and let that just be your awareness of what you feel, the thoughts you keep having, and just kind of be like, okay, noted. I feel embarrassed. Noted. I can't stop thinking about it. And get it out of your head and put it onto that paper, but don't give it any more attention. Keeps popping up, write it down. Keeps popping up. If the same thing keeps popping up, write embarrassed. And then every time it pops up, just put a little hash mark next to the word. Where that will help your brain feel like it's doing something with what it's cycling through, and help you remind yourself, okay, noted, I'm looking at the client. I'm talking about the client right now. The client is my focus. The same thing goes for if you are, let's say, distracted by something else going on in your life and you're struggling to stay focused on the client work. Have a little piece of paper and just note it. Every time that thing rises back up for you, maybe you're worried about paying your taxes. Maybe you're worried about something that's happening tonight. Maybe you're worried about the conversation you need to have with your spouse. Whatever it is, maybe you're hurt by something that a friend said to you an hour before this client call, 10 minutes before this client call. Whatever it is, make a little hash mark or write the word down just so your brain can say, I did something with that, but now is not the right time. And maybe you need to give yourself a note on the computer, little Post-it note that says, come back to center. Focus on the client. Maybe you need to give yourself a little visual reminder to help your brain consistently come back to being present fully for your client and not think so much about itself. It's really, really hard to do great work with your clients if you haven't done the work for yourself before you get on that call, or if you keep coming back to the work that you need to do. I hope this has been a little clarifying for you, whether it's happened to you and you've gotten stuck in this, or maybe it's never happened, but now you do know what to happen. I wish it's something that somebody had clarified to me. I did figure it out on my own. Okay, I just need to give my brain an outlet for what it's experiencing, give my body an outlet to make note of the emotion it's feeling without it being projected onto my coaching session, without my client feeling that my focus is somewhere else. And I hope that it's helpful to you. And it's one of the great things I love about the monthly coaching calls is I get to find out what all of my coaches are experiencing. It actually helps me create more content for you and ultimately know how to serve everybody better as a coach. So remember, all things are possible, all things are figure outable, and God's for you, and so am I. Have a great day. Hey friends, don't forget to jump into the Christian Life Coach Collective Facebook group if you haven't already, so you can connect with like-directed people and get free resources and ask for feedback, all the things that are going to help support you on your calling as a coach. I hope to see you in there, and don't forget to subscribe to the show.